Good evening, everyone. Yes. Oh, I was saying good evening to everyone, not just you. But Tommy got me back, so I appreciate that. Thank you all for being here. It's a really busy night in Pensacola. There are like 3,000 different ways for citizens to be involved, from the Land Development Code to Hollice T. Williams Project to a bunch of other things that I've forgotten. But we appreciate the fact that you've chosen to be here, which is where all the cool kids are. So give yourselves a round of applause for being the cool kids. Councilwoman Tenyati Broughton was not able to be here tonight. She's actually doing some filming for a Black History Month documentary or film, and some of the other city staff are at some other events. So you're stuck with us, but we don't bother. It doesn't bother us if you misbehave a little bit. So although we do have some members of the media here, don't quote me on that. I want to turn over the program to Katie Fox, who's our project manager, and we'll get things started.
All right. As Travis mentioned, I'm Katie Fox. I'm a senior engineer with Geosyntec Consultants, and glad to see many of you back in the room here today. I guess just a show of hands, who was able to make our first event? Okay, that's great. And so we've got a lot of new faces as well. So just to kind of go ahead and get started. So today, some of you may have read that we're going to reveal design concepts and or a plan, if you will. We are not sharing a design tonight. What we will be sharing is concepts and ideas that will feed into our visioning plan, which we plan to reveal to the community at our third event. So make sure you also plan to join us in April for that as well. So you can kind of think of this process of tonight you're going to see the ingredients. In April, you're going to see the sauce that we made with it. So that's what we're really going to be soliciting your feedback on tonight. And so with that, we'll go ahead and get started. If you did attend our first event, you'll notice that this meeting layout is very similar to what we did last time. We're going to very briefly reintroduce the design team, give you an overview of our design process and our project timeline. Then we will be recapping back to you the public engagement input that we've received so far. So that incorporates our survey that we had online that many of you participated in, and also the feedback from our first meeting that we had as well. Then we'll be going through the design concepts of what makes a great park. And then finally, we'll end with our engagement activity where you guys will, similar to last time, go around and provide feedback on our boards that we have around the room. All right, so part one, who are we and what are we going to do together? So again, we've got our core design team here with us tonight. Starting out with just really quick introductions. Again, I'm Katie Fox with Geosyntec Consultants. We are the design lead and also the engineering lead on this project. Next, we've got Michael Van Valkenburgh Associates, who's leading park visioning and design. Next, we've got local landscape architects, Jerry Pate Design, also supporting our public engagement process. And last but not least, leading our community engagement efforts is Impact Campaigns. Got Travis back here. All right, so going through our next slide, what does this project include? There's a number of different goals and objectives that our design team has to achieve and meet as part of this redesign process. And they're all equally important. First and foremost, we're trying to create a great neighborhood park and a regional amenity for the Pensacola community. Secondly, due to aging infrastructure and the historic flooding that this area has experienced, we also have to focus on stormwater improvements to alleviate flooding and provide water quality benefit to the water that's discharging to Pensacola Bay. Third, we're looking to have a collaborative public engagement process with all of you, and we're tackling that through many different efforts. We have these big meetings that you're attending here tonight. We've had several small group meetings as well. And then we're also engaging online through surveys and social media. And last but not least, our team is conducting an equity gap analysis of the surrounding area And the idea behind that is to collect data points and really study this area that surrounds the park and really try to understand how does that compare to greater Pensacola and also the state of Florida. And the way our team's going to utilize that information is we're going to identify the areas or the data points that are less equitable for this community and see how our design process and our project can both directly and indirectly improve those items. All right, so as some of you might recall, we've got really a two-step design process. First and foremost, we're going through this visioning process, and this is where, this is our opportunity to think big and dream big, solicit input from the community and all of our stakeholders. And this process is going to be rendering the park at a conceptual level, but it'll help us spatially lay out, where the stormwater improvement's going to go, where can we have park programming and community facilities within this project footprint. This park is big. This is about 110 acres, and because of that, it would be impossible for the city to implement this project all at the same time. Therefore, the project's going to have to be phased, and that phasing is going to be highly dependent on the funding that the city is able to acquire. They do have funding in place now that we'll go through in just a couple of slides, but that effort is ongoing. Our design team and the city are looking for opportunities to apply for more grants, find sponsors, and things like that. So it's a continuous work in progress. So next you'll see a pink boundary that's been added, and this is our initial design area. So going back to the project needing to be implemented in phases, this is the area that our design team is focused on for the initial improvements. So I know many of you might be thinking, well, what am I going to see first? What area are you actually going to be improving? And this is still a conceptual boundary, if you will, but the initial improvements will occur within this pink boundary. And based on the funding that the city has in place, those will be highly focused on stormwater improvements, water quality improvements, but that's a mandate that our design team has, but we're also committed as a design team to giving you a great park as part of that process. All right, and just very quickly, again, this is a recap for many of you that were here last time. The city has put in a lot of really great effort into securing a number of grants that are presented here. We've got CDBG money at $25 million. We've got a natural resource damage assessment as well, a transportation administration grant that focuses on multimodal pathways. And then most recently, the city was successful in winning the Reconnecting Communities grant, which will really focus on, that'll bring the opportunity to the design team to implement improvements for reconnection, safe pedestrian passage through and around the park, and get beyond the stormwater aspect and start looking at those amenities that the community will enjoy. All right, and finally, what's our timeline? You can see where we're at right now. This is public meeting number 2. We're at the end of February. Meeting number 3 is scheduled for early April, so make sure you block that out on your calendars early. But essentially, we'll be designing throughout 2025. And where we're at right now, you can see we're really kind of at the tail end of our park visioning process. And that visioning process incorporates the feedback that we received from you from our initial meeting, the meeting tonight, and then the visioning process will conclude with our 3rd meeting, where we will have incorporated all of the input and feedback from all of you, and that will culminate into a design that we'll be presenting to the community at that time. And just represented on the slide here, you can see community engagement will be happening throughout the design process. And after we're done really soliciting input from all of you, our meetings will kind of switch focus and be more of a presentation of the design as it progresses, and showcasing to you how we've incorporated your input. All right, so I'm going to pass it over to Travis.
All right. Okay, I don't know if y'all remember, this is what we did last time. So smile and say cheese. Wave if you want. All right, you guys, let's go. Smile, cheese. All right, awesome. You're on candid camera. That's a lot. That's the favorite part of the night for me. All right, so clicker. So, how many of you have seen some of these things? Postcards, social media, handouts. Okay, because I mean, you got to find out somehow. Anybody find out some other way? Okay, good. That means we're doing our job, right? Okay, good deal. So we've sent out press releases. We've had posters. We've done radio shows. We've done postcards, Instagram, Facebook, website. And some of you have gone door to door and taken postcards to neighbors. So we very much appreciate you taking your time to be here tonight, but also to help spread the word. It's really important that we get as many voices in this process as possible. It's important for us to remember why we're here. Now, Councilwoman Broughton told this story much better than I'm able to, but many people don't know that what used to be under the interstate wasn't just a big park. It was a neighborhood. And when the interstate came through, like the highway system did in many communities, it came through the poor and predominantly African-American neighborhoods, displaced hundreds of homes, businesses, churches. You can still see some of the names. You'll see some of the churches and some of the last names that you'll recognize from other places around this town. So we approach this project with a great deal of humility, and we want to make sure that this design process not only commemorates the neighborhood, but celebrates the vibrant neighborhood that was here. So for those of you who were here last week, we had a good time. I'm going to stand here so I can see a little better. We had some great interaction. We had a lot of smiling faces. This front row looks about the same. I'm going to pass the offering plate around in a minute. Thank you so much for being here. So, but it's really important. What we hear from you all is it really goes into the design of the plan, and your input is so important. So that was it was only 3 weeks ago. It was supposed to be 4 weeks ago, but we got 9 inches of snow. So we had to do January 30th. We've also had some small group stakeholder meetings, and these are where we can kind of really get into some specific topic areas. We've talked to the senior group here at Cobb Center. We've talked with some of the local historians. We've had some meetings with people who focus on mobility and accessibility so that everyone is going to feel welcome here at the park. And we started off talking to some of the folks who are right here on the park, Long Hollow neighborhood, East Side neighborhood, Rattlers, go Rattlers. And some of the other First City Arts Center. So we really wanted to start with the folks who are on the park. Skate Center, Skate Park was here as well. So that's kind of our process. We do a couple of days with the whole team in town, small groups, large community meetings, and then we come back and we review all of that content, all of that feedback, and then we turn it back into design or concepts, as you're going to see tonight. We also had some coloring contests that we did with some kids to draw a picture of what their perfect park looked like. We had some of the kids here at the Cobb Center do that. If any of you have children at home, young children that color still? Okay. Oh, and grandchildren. Yes, absolutely. Grandchildren or children. Please, we're gonna get some cool prizes. I don't know what they are yet because we haven't gotten them yet, but they'll be cool. So have your kids. You can download it from the website, and I think we may have a few copies here. If not, we can email it out to everyone. Draw a picture. Tell us what your perfect park looks like, and you don't have to be a young kid. One young lady who's 61 years old, she runs a community garden. She drew her picture too. So don't feel like you have to be. You can be young or young at heart. We've had a park survey that we had in paper and online. Does anybody know? Who else taken this survey? Oh, not bad, not bad. Okay, good. So for those of you who haven't, you can find this survey on our website. We're going to keep it open for another week. We've had 150 surveys so far, which is a decent start, but we want more. We've had a lot of participation. We've had over 1,000 data points, kind of red, yellow, green stickers on some of these boards that you see at a last meeting where people are telling us what they like and they don't like. We've had input from 7 years old to 94 years old. 7 was the youngest coloring contest participant, and 94 years old was one of the young ladies at the senior group that meets here every day. So I think we hit a pretty good age demographic there. And as you can see, the neighborhoods, you know, we want this to be a park that serves the East Side neighborhood and Long Hollow neighborhoods, but we also want it to be a regional amenity that works for everyone. So we really feel good about the you know, 2/3 of the surveys have come from folks that are right around the area, and we've got another third of folks who, you know, may not live nearby but want to use the park and see it be the best park that it can be. So thank you for your participation, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brad.
Thank you, Travis. So as Travis said, your input is extremely valuable to us, and of those, we had 154 surveys, like Travis said. We've got over 1,000 visual data points as well as written comments that we took, and we kind of boiled down, we mulled them over, and we were able to determine 6 major categories of feedback, and that's what you see up here. And we're gonna actually, we've got them printed out so you can study them a little bit more, because I know that's a lot of info to take in a slide. So please come up here and get one of these so that you can have some more input. As well as, you know, the 6 categories we looked at were, you know, they kind of all interlace and overlap, but the 6 we boiled them down to were active recreation, play and exploration, safety and maintenance. Safety was a big key factor here. Passive recreation, as well as cultural and history that Travis touched on a little bit earlier. And we heard a big feedback on entrepreneurship and creating spaces for people to you know, grow a business or start a business. So from that, we were able to boil it down a little bit more. So we got it down to 6 major takeaways that we got from the feedback in January. So the last public meeting we were here, all the dots on the board, all the public comments, the neighborhood dots that you see behind you. So prioritizing safety was everywhere, and that's obviously what we want to prioritize as well. Provide a diverse set of recreational programming, as well as create a balanced program for play and recreation. So not just programming one space for one use, but providing a variety of use for one space. As well as provide engaging and adaptive placemaking. Incorporate culturally and historically sensitive design, which again, Travis touched on a bit, and Councilwoman did as well. And then allowing space for large gathering and community events, whether that's covered, uncovered. It kind of ties into number 3 as well, as providing a different set of programming for different spaces. Pass it off to Scott now.
Thank you, Brad. So Katie spoke about the ingredients earlier. We truly don't know what the sauce is yet, but we do think there's some qualities about this park that are universal, and we really hope you agree with some of these first aspects. The park must be uniquely Pensacola. This is such a fascinating place to visit, whether it be the culture, the history, the vegetation. There's so much to make this place feel like it's yours, and that's why it's so important to have you all provide input on what you want this park to look like. We heard this resoundingly at our first meeting. It needs to be safe to get to. It needs to be safe to drive to walk to, and to ride your bike to. And where possible, our hope is that it's a continuous and uninterrupted space. When you're there today, it feels like you're on the edge of a road all the time, and you don't have that escape that you can get in a park sometimes, that feeling of nature, that removal from your daily life. And we want a variety of spaces. We want different scaled spaces. We want small, intimate spaces. We want large spaces. We want to have a lot of different uses. And we want it to be welcoming to all. We want everyone in Pensacola to feel invited and like it's a place that's theirs. So how do we apply these qualities to your site? We're going to do it in 4 different ways. The first is we want the park to be make it convenient and inviting. And as I said earlier, you told us your safety concerns. We went back, we did the homework. Luckily, we have the active transportation plan that helps us identify what's safe and unsafe about this part of Pensacola. As you can see in the yellow, there's a high injury network of streets. These are streets that document says are unsafe. And they were able to identify where crashes occurred and with who, whether it be vehicles, pedestrians, or bicycles. And what we start to see is these hotspots. You told us about them. You told us about these streets that are unsafe. And at Maxwell and Jordan, there's over 100 crashes on the north end, also at Palafox as well. And then Cervantes is a high injury, dangerous area. So we truly believe we need to modify the road network in and around this site. First, we're gonna create lots and lots of safe and inviting park entries. It's a long, skinny site. There's lots of intersections. We first thought there might be 1 or 2 main entries, and we said, no, this should be easy to access from the entire length of the park. And those east-west roads that are such fast cut-throughs, we propose to meander them and make a more park-like environment. So it feels like you're driving through a park, not next to a park. And we want to create safer bike networks. Right now, there's a quote-unquote bike lane on Cervantes Street. We might propose that goes away and relocate them on lower speed roads and create a whole new network within the park so that it's easy to move through. And then finally, we want to make the park safe at all times of the day. Right now, it's dimly lit. It's hard to see where you're going. With the help of KO, who's somewhere in the audience. KO, where are you? There he is. He's our lighting designer. He's going to make it a lot more well lit. After we've created a safe way to get to and move through the park, we can start work on that park interior. So we want to maximize the park footprint through subtle road modifications. We think we can really try to make this feel like a continuous and uninterrupted park experience, and instead of little kind of parklets along the way. We want to integrate a looped and accessible pathway system so you can kind of choose your own adventure. If you want to dip into the park for 5 minutes and dip out, you can do that in a loop. If you want to spend the whole day, you can move through the park and enjoy it. And hopefully, if you're in a wheelchair or a stroller, you can walk right next to your group and enjoy the park the exact same way as able-bodied people. We want to create a park with varied landscape character. Right now, it's flat, it's open, you see it all at once. We hope it becomes a series of unfolding spaces that you can discover and enjoy and pick your favorite spot throughout the year and throughout the day. So now I'm going to kind of build up a cross section of the site. So this is a diagram with the east side neighborhood to the right, the northbound and southbound interstates elevated above, and Long Hollow Pond to the left of the image. And right now, it's a big flat plain. So the first thing we're going to do is introduce that to topography. We're going to ripple the site to create a series of layers of spaces. And what that allows us to do is to begin to sub-program across that in different ways and different aspects. Sometimes you're near the streets, and we'll program those with certain uses, and sometimes you're right in the middle, and that might be where you have that continuous, uninterrupted experience. From there, we're going to build up a variety of plant types of vegetation. We think this can really mitigate the scale of the highway above you, so you have this kind of third layer, and you don't feel like you're just underneath a highway all the time. And then we're going to take that vegetation layer and start to diversify it with the ecology of Pensacola. You have so many amazing layers of your planting palette, whether it be the live oaks or the saw palmettos or the cypresses. We're really going to try to create variety within this environment. And then finally, we're going to layer in program determined by you all. So places for entrepreneurship, places for relaxing, places for gathering, places to exercise, and finally places for play. So we'll get into that next. As I said earlier, something for everyone. Recreation, BMX and biking, court sports, whether I saw some pickleball paddles here, I'm sure we'll hear about that. Jogging and fitness classes, is there flexible spaces that people can occupy and use how they wish. Places to relax in nature, connecting with the water. We know we're going to have some sort of water in this project. We already know Long Hollow is a water body that we'd like to make publicly accessible. There's a lot of joy being near water and the microclimate it creates. Strolling, passive spaces, resting and relaxing, and finally, just kind of nature watching and enjoying that as well. Places for play and exploration. There's so much range we could explore with this. Nature play, water play. If we have water in the park, we need to make some of it playful and joyful so kids don't feel attracted to the stormwater areas. Destination play, maybe there's places where you'd bring your friends and family when they come to visit. It's one of those destinations that you say, you gotta go see Hollice T. Williams Park. And then finally, is there more imaginative spaces like a fantasy forest or something more natural and interesting? Places for gathering, we heard about the summer fests that already occur there where people like to bring their families and friends for large-scale gatherings. Is it appropriate to picnic and grill? Would people like to do outdoor arts? Are nature walks something people would organize around? And then how could this be a place for learning for children and adults? And we also heard resounding support for a place for entrepreneurship. How can this be an economic driver for the community? If you want to throw a festival or a get-together, how can we support your entrepreneurial spirit? If you're a performer, how can we create a space for you to perform? How can we honor history with local Pensacola artists? And if you want to start a food business, how could we create an environment where you can host your food event? And finally, places for all communities, for kids, for all abilities. Places for teens, those are sometimes the most difficult to plan for. There's currently a skate park. We'd like to build on the momentum of that and create additional places for teens. And places to gather so that you can meet your neighbors, and there's always something going on in the park. So if you're feeling lonely, you can go there and enjoy your neighbors and your community. And then finally, stormwater is the driver of this project. It's how we got the grant funding, and we need to creatively address the stormwater needs. I think you all know how much of an impact stormwater is. The diagram on the left is the flood extents in a large-scale flood. We're currently analyzing what our park can do to support mitigating those floods. Stormwater ponds don't always need to be fenced off and inaccessible. We believe that we can make a publicly accessible stormwater pond that's totally enjoyable and safe at the same time. We think we can create landscapes that temporarily store stormwater. So throughout the year it's dry, but in a storm event it can fill up with water and percolate down. And we think water will be a defining park characteristic and really provide joy and passive opportunities for recreation. So with those 4 approaches, we hope to solicit your feedback. Where did we miss the mark? What do you love? Travis is going to walk you through the engagement activity. Thanks.
All right, so in just a sec, and I guess, Samantha, can we hit the lights? Just as a reminder, we are going to continue to add more information on the website. We'll continue to update our social media platforms. If you haven't signed up for email, we'll send you emails. We'll try not to spam you. We will send postcards when we can. So get in our list, like us on Facebook or Instagram. We're not on TikTok. I'm sorry, I just don't do cool dances for that. So, but please plug in when you can and stay in touch. In just a minute, the team, actually, let's go ahead and we're going to start moving the team around. So we're going to have each of the subject matter experts go to their different stations. And unlike me, these folks are really, really, really smart. And so they're going to be able to talk to you about different questions, answer your questions. We've got a project overview here. We've got some something for everyone is over here. We've got stormwater opportunities. We've got a cohesive park interior. And here's a new word that you might hear Scott say. It's interiority. Interiority. Can everybody say that? Interiority. I had to learn what it means. What it means is you feel like you've gotten away from the outside of the park. Did I say that right?
Nailed it.
Yes. And then we also have a board on safety. So what we want you all to do is make your way around. We don't have passports or anything. There's no prizes for hitting all 6 stations, but we want to hear from you. And we want you to ask questions. These folks have been digging in on this project for 4 or 5 months now. We really want to hear from you. What sounds good? What do you like? What do you not like? And am I missing anything?
written
All right.
surveys.
Oh.
The only thing I'll add is that on the general information board are QR codes for all of the design teams. So if you
Oh,
wanna.
yes, good.
If you wanna see what our work is like in other places, et cetera.
Yes, so you can, on this one, they've got QR codes for all of the consultants. We'll also be putting that on the website as well. So,
Surveys.
we also, anybody want an extra survey? There's surveys here. Do we have the coloring pages? Not right now.
No.
We'll get coloring pages, and we also have the feedback graphs, the pie charts. So, 3, 2, 1, go.